Have you ever watched a movie that was really, really good? By the end, you feel a genuine connection to the characters. Its ending leaves you in literal tears. And then the credits roll. And you think to yourself, I'm never watching that shit again. Bad movies, however, connect with us for a different reason. So obviously bad movies aren't literally better than good movies, but maybe they're figuratively better than good movies? First we'll kind of go over my issue with good movies, then we'll loop back into why I love stinkers so much. So my first point against good movies is what I'll call emotional weight. Some of my favorite movies I've seen both recently and in the past are movies that are amazing to watch, but they place such a massive emotional weight on the viewer, they discourage repeat viewings. For example, Grave of the Fireflies is a masterclass in emotional storytelling, but its sheer unrelenting tragedy makes a film that most people can only stomach once. It's about two children struggling to survive in Japan during World War II after losing their mother to an air raid, and unlike other war films that focus on battles and political conflicts, this one zeroes in on personal loss, starvation, and the slow erosion of hope. Another film that I would say fits this category is Requiem for a Dream, which is one of the most disturbing depictions of addiction ever put to film. Structured as a downward spiral with no redemption, the film follows four interconnected characters, each chasing their own version of happiness, only to be consumed by addiction and self-destruction. And a few other films I'd say fit this ticket are Schindler's List, Iron Claw, and The Whale. Some movies are just so good you never want to have to go through them again. Or at the very least, you need some time away from it before you ever need that feeling again. You've already cried, been made to feel uncomfortable, or come to accept the loss of your new movie wife and child. You don't need to put yourself through it again. But you will sing along to Friends by Dragon Sound for the 800th time with your friends. Another reason I prefer bad movies to good ones a lot of the time is what I'll call narrative satisfaction. Some films simply land their endings so perfectly I don't feel the need to revisit them immediately. They leave you with this feeling of completeness that most films don't give you. For example, in The Shawshank Redemption, after Andy's escape, we have a whole final chapter following Red's release, showing his struggle to fit back into society after his long prison sentence, eventually leading to a cache of money Andy left for him and an invitation to join him in Mexico. The film has already taken us on an epic journey that these two experienced together, and the two embracing each other at the end is a perfect finale to the film. It leaves no loose ends or any further questions. The ending is so satisfying, but the path there was so grueling, so it's not every day we want to go through that journey with them. I know The Truman Show is somewhat of a comedy, but I think it also fits in this section. Throughout the film, we're introduced to Jim Carrey's character, whose entire life has been orchestrated on a massive scale, living a life where every moment of his life is being broadcast to the public in a massive reality show. All of his relationships are fake, all of his friendships are fake, and throughout the film he begins to recognize the inconsistencies of his world. This leads to him sailing away from the studio set into the unknown real world. The ending is poignant, meaningful, and impactful. And while this film is hilarious, I still can't come back for seconds all too often.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And there's a ton more that fit into this category for me, like Heat, E.T., Citizen Kane, The Green Mile, and even Whiplash are hard for me to revisit at times. Alright, now my final point against good films, and we'll call this narrative complexity. And this is simply the amount of focus a film requires from me to fully gain appreciation for it. There are films that while they're truly amazing, they just take so much out of me to get through them and fully understand them, that once I do, it's hard for me to want to go back and revisit them again. For example, if we take a look at Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, this film is pretty universally accepted as a masterpiece, but it demands such a high level of patience and engagement that it becomes exhausting rather than inviting for casual rewatches. Its slow-burning narrative deliberately forgoes traditional plot beats, instead methodically unraveling the rise and moral decay of Daniel Plainview, who's this ruthless oil man whose greed and misanthropy drive the film's central conflict. The heavy themes of capitalism, ambition, and human corruption require active engagement, making it more of an intellectual character study than an emotionally gratifying drama. And adding to the challenge, the film relies heavily on long atmospheric stretches with minimal dialogue, where tension builds through striking cinematography and Johnny Greenwood's unsettling score, rather than conventional storytelling. All this, combined with the film's nihilistic tone and darkly absurd ending, it leaves the audience with a sense of unease rather than closure.
I drink your milkshake.
While the film is undoubtedly brilliant, its bleakness and demanding nature make it more of a film I admire but really never want to revisit. And if I'm being honest, it was only on my third attempt that I was able to get all the way through this movie to appreciate it. A few others we can mention in this category would be Mulholland Drive, which is this surreal, dreamlike experience, and due to that it can kind of be rewarding for multiple viewings, but it's also so unsettling and ambiguous, it makes it kind of an exhausting watch. We also have 2001: A Space Odyssey, which demands so much patience, with long stretches of pure visual storytelling that feel more like a cinematic study than a casual rewatch. And lastly, we have Synecdoche, New York, which is this like existential gut punch about art and death that'll either change your life or make you spiral into an identity crisis. But either way, you're not exactly throwing it on for background noise. So those are my main points against good movies, so let me kind of talk about why I prefer bad ones to good ones most of the time. So in my opinion, the best bad movies are ones that didn't necessarily intend to be bad movies, they were made with complete sincerity. So we'll call this section unintentional comedy. The directors of these films often thought they were making something profound, or at the very least, serious. But due to the sheer ineptitude of the artist, the execution leads to something so horrifically bad that's accidentally hilarious.
I'm talking about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup.
Some examples of these unintentionally bad movies that you've probably heard of would include The Room and Tommy Wiseau's baffling script.
I cannot tell you, it's confidential.
Oh, come on, why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
Bizarre line deliveries.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
And nonsensical plot make this one of the funniest movies ever made despite his initial intent to make a serious drama. Next, we'd have something like Troll 2, which is famous for its laughably terrible special effects and acting.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me!
And despite being called Troll 2, it has no trolls. And finally, we have something like Birdemic, which tries to be this environmental horror thriller, but the terrible CGI birds and wooden acting turn it into a masterpiece of unintended hilarity. And while a lot of movies have tried to mimic the unintentionally bad feel due to our inexplicable love for them, it's rare we get ones that really hit the same level of enjoyment. That said, I'll name a few that I think did a good job of emulating this feel. The first being Velocipastor, which is about a priest who turns into a velociraptor to fight crime. Then we have Jesus Christ Vampire Slayer, which tells the story of Jesus, who uses his kung fu prowess to wipe out hordes of vampires who attack lesbians. And another that I enjoyed was Wolf Cop, which is about this alcoholic cop who gets turned into a werewolf, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a ton more that do a decent job, and while people can seem to replicate this feel to an extent these days, there is something that's so rewarding when you find those movies that are truly made by someone so devoid of talent that made something without a hint of cynicism. They are so bad in a way that's so passionate that the wheel turns so far beyond bad that it morphs right back into good again. I mean, fuck, the film Dangerous Men was made by an Iranian carpet salesman who'd never seen a real fight before filming one. I don't think there's a director on earth who could replicate this on purpose. For the next reason, I'll just simply say there's no pressure. So when it comes to watching all-time great movies, and this is especially true if you have cinephile friends, there always tends to be this pressure to really understand and enjoy these films that society has deemed as masterpieces. There's often an unspoken expectation to treat it with respect, to sit quietly, to absorb its meaning, and appreciate the artistry. But bad movies? You can watch them however you'd like. Watching a film like The Seventh Seal, you're supposed to sit in silence, absorb its existential themes, and contemplate the meaning of life. Watching Samurai Cop, you're supposed to yell at the screen, laugh at the wig continuity errors, and quote every bad line until your friends hate you. One is homework, the other's a party. You can go to special showings and throw spoons at the screen. Spoon! Imagine going to see Oppenheimer, and right as the nuke goes off, everything goes silent. And some dude gets up, walks to the front of the theater at the perfect moment, farts really fucking loud. That honestly would have made that movie 10 times better for me, but I don't know, maybe I just have the fucking brain of a child. Unlike serious films where talking or laughing might be considered rude, bad movies actually get better when you interact with them. And I think this kind of leads me to my next point, which is rewatchability. Bad movies are endlessly rewatchable. If you're anything like me, you've had a similar experience to this. You show a friend The Room for the first time, and you sit there together, then you realize for the past 30 minutes you've been watching them instead of the movie. And you start to realize that seeing someone else react to Tommy Wiseau's nonsense is just as fun as watching it yourself. A bad movie isn't just a movie, it's an experience. You sit down to watch Neil Breen's Double Down, or fuck any Neil Breen movie, and suddenly you're showing it to every new friend you meet. You're quoting it. Can you say the same for something like The Revenant? Watching really great movies feels like such a lonely experience at times, especially watching films with a lot of depth, because everyone can take something different from these films. When it comes to bad movies, you're all in love with it for the same reason, and it's uniting in a strange way. You can talk, joke, and make fun during the movie. If one of your friends can quote the entire thing, you're not annoyed at him because you're right there quoting the best lines with them. Imagine sitting down trying to understand what the fuck is happening in Requiem for a Dream, but Billy is sitting right next to you quoting the whole fucking thing. And that's really what makes bad movies special. They're not just movies, they're events, they're memes, they're inside jokes, they're shared experiences in a way that great films rarely are. And honestly, I think that's kind of beautiful. And look, I love great films. I love the overwhelming tension of Come and See, the mind-bending storytelling of Primer, and the gut-wrenching performances in Manchester by Sea. But hear me out. Sometimes I don't want to feel emotionally shattered, or have to Google what point in time whoever the fuck traveled to. Sometimes I just want to watch a martial arts rock band fight ninjas, or watch a detective werewolf solve crimes, or see an alien turkey go on a killing spree while making bad puns. If you even sort of agree with me on any of this, I have a few bad movie recommendations to send your way, and tell me some of your favorite bad movies in the comments. So first up we have Star Crash, which is this Italian Star Wars ripoff starring David Hasselhoff with a lightsaber and this android with a Texan accent. Next up we have Battlefield Earth, which is this Scientology-fueled disaster with John Travolta and dreadlocks. It's almost exclusively shot in Dutch angles and has dialogue like,
Happy as a baby cyclo, a straight diet of Bango.
Another good one is Last Vampire on Earth, which is this Christian Twilight knockoff with acting so bad it makes Tommy Wiseau look like Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's right. I have AIDS and it's advancing very quickly. I don't have that much longer to live, and I will not hesitate to shoot someone for trying to kill Aurelius.
Next up we have The Suckling, which is about a woman's aborted fetus that gets flushed down the toilet and mutates into a killer monster and starts slaughtering people. Another classic is Hard Ticket to Hawaii, which has this lethal frisbee, rocket launchers, and a mutant snake that jumps out of a toilet. This movie fucks. Another good one is Blood Debts, which is this revenge movie where the protagonist kills like 100 people, and the film literally ends with a freeze frame explosion and zero resolution. And another of my favorites is Howling 3: The Marsupials. It's a werewolf movie, but the werewolves are like kangaroo creatures with pouches for their babies. It's so fucking stupid. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Adios, dweebs.
Finger in me bum, horse shed that tank feels so